installment of I Have Questions. So as I said in the intro video, this is a new project that I'm working on that's combining my love of Disney and research. So this is the first post. So I'm going to have these little introduction videos where I talk about things in my collection. I talk about my experiences with the movies, experiences in the parks with these movies, if there are any. I'm learning that there actually is a lot of movies that aren't represented in the parks. And then I'm just going to kind of go through a couple different things in this video, and then down below you'll just scroll through and I have all of these questions that I had during the movie, and then I've linked in there what I found, the resources I've used, things like that. And then scroll down a little farther, there's just the unanswerable questions that just, came to mind, that are like consistency things or just random things that just can't be answered in any sort of real researchy kind of way. And then down below are just kind of thoughts and random statements that I had during watching these movies. And so it's really just for fun. This is just kind of a passion project of mine. And so far with doing this one, I have really enjoyed it. I've actually learned a lot. And I think I'm excited to continue and to learn more as I keep going through this. There are definitely some movies that I think are going to be harder than others, but Snow White definitely has a lot of things that I had questions for. So be sure to get through all of that. At the very bottom are links to just some fun things about Snow White specifically. And then I also have a couple of photo galleries. One is just strictly for my collection, and then one is strictly for photos and things from the parks. So be sure to scroll all the way down to check all of that stuff out. I know that there's a lot of information on this page, so bear with me. It does read really quickly. It looks like a lot of words and things, but it's actually really just quick little statements and things. I know it can be overwhelming, but hopefully we all learn a little bit by me doing this project. So with that, to first talk about the things in my collection. So I do have a Snow White snow globe that I probably got in like 2000. Yep, it would have been 2000 actually, or early 2001. I also have this pewter set of the Seven Dwarfs and Snow White that I found at a thrift shop several years ago. There is an Evil Queen figure, and it's the one thing that's missing from that set. So hopefully someday they can all be reunited. And then I also have the full set of the Seven Dwarfs and Snow White and the Evil Queen in Funko form. And then I also have a couple other little things. I have some pins. Actually, one of my favorite pin sets is from the gala pin event that was done in like 2014, 15 maybe. But it's all the little Seven Dwarfs and then the big Snow White. It's kind of like what they did with the Oscars when the movie won the Oscars, and they made the 7 little ones and then one big one for Walt Disney. And then I also have some Tsum Tsums, I have some bean bags, I have like just random Snow White stuff. So that's pretty much it, I think, for the collection. So moving on to childhood memories. Snow White was definitely not a movie that I was really drawn to. We had like the VHS copy of it and I would watch it, but it was never one that really won out over some of the more recent movies. What I do remember is like watching this movie again, I was reminded of, I don't know when Disney on Ice came out, or like if it was just Snow White on Ice, or if it was like Disney but like they had a Snow White section. But if it was, the thing that is weird is if it wasn't like Snow White on Ice, the scene that they chose from Snow White, I distinctly remember, was the scene when she's being chased by the huntsman and he tells her to run and she runs, and then she gets scared by the forest and there's the scary trees and all of that. This is all being done on ice skates. And I hate that scene anyway. I've always hated that scene. And then I'm sure I was traumatized by seeing the scene played out with trees on ice skates. And so that was like one thing that I was like, oh yeah, I remember seeing that Snow White on Ice thing when I was like 6 or 7. Maybe I was a little older than that, but like I definitely remember that part. I don't remember anything else about the show. I just remember the trees on ice. And that's it. And then as far as the parks go, I do remember, and since going back to Disneyland multiple times as an adult, like Snow White Scary Adventures it was always scary to me when I was little. And it's like, it's very, very jarring because there's like the dramatic scene at the end, and then right after it, the doors open and it's like, and they lived happily ever after. Like, it's the most like, um, multi-personality like moment in that entire ride, where it's like dark and there's lightning and thunder and and everything's happening, and then all of a sudden it's like happy birds and like, yay, you've survived the end of the ride. Which has always been just an issue for me with that ride. But then the other thing that I do love is that when you're waiting, especially when you're waiting in line for Peter Pan, you can look and then the evil queen is looking out her window occasionally. So I do always try to stop and make sure that I see that when I'm at Disneyland, just because it's one of those things that I've, done my entire life. And then as far as Walt Disney World goes, with the first time I went was in 2012, so it was right at the unveiling of New Fantasyland. So I had never seen anything before that. So when Seven Dwarfs Mine Train was actually under construction the first time that I went, and then opened up obviously since then, so I didn't really have any understanding of like where things were before that, or how things were laid out, or any of that stuff. But the one thing I really do love Seven Dwarf Mine Train. I think it's a really great ride. I just wish it was longer. I know that's one of the main complaints of people, is just it's awesome. It's just it ends too quickly. But I do love that the vultures in the ride are original to the original Snow White ride that was at Magic Kingdom. And then I also love, and this was something I picked up on while watching the movie, is that each individual car has at the very front the dwarf's name, and it's carved like the footboard on their beds are in the movie. So I thought that was a really cool touch that they brought in for the movie. And then the other question I had, which is actually part of the questions down below, is there's a scene where Snow White's telling them to go wash up, which is kind of ironic in the times that we're living in right now. But they go out there and they're washing their hands and all, and their faces and all of that, and I was like, this kind of reminds me of the queue for Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, where you get to walk through and there's a point where you're sorting diamonds in the water, and then there's like the organ that like drops water if you run your hand under it, things like that. And I was like, obviously they got all of that inspiration from the movie, but it's kind of fun to like connect the two. And I do love that queue is so interactive. Well, anyway, those are my thoughts about Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. It really is an awesome ride. So with that, the one other thing that I wanted to add, because it actually worked out for this video, is that for many, many, many years, I've really enjoyed nail art and doing my own nails, and especially now in a time when salons haven't been open and things like that, and just saving money. I do have not a huge nail polish collection anymore, but it's pretty extensive. And I actually have two nail polishes. One is from a Villains collection I bought at the Disney store a long time ago, and the other one is from a set I got at D23, I think in 2013. And so I decided I would just use all of those for the nails I did today. That's just kind of inspired by Snow White. So I'm hoping I can do that for every video from here on out, but who knows. I'm definitely not an expert by any means. It's just kind of, it's like Disney bounding, but for nails. So with that, I definitely want to say, if you will find me on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, feel free to follow me. Feel free to subscribe to my channel so that you see these. And then I'm hoping that these posts inspire you to want to travel. If you ever have any questions about planning a Disney trip or planning any other trip, especially as we're able to travel again. I know a lot of bucket lists are getting pretty long. Mine is definitely getting long. So I am more than happy to help out and help you book your next magical vacation, wherever that may be. I obviously am a Disney expert and Universal expert, but I like planning, as I've said in a lot of my other videos recently. And with that, please read below and learn some more about Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Bye!